What's up everybody, it's Matt Shu from Upright Health. This video is a follow-up to this video up here that talked about some beginner things you could do to improve your external range of motion in your hip joint. This video is going to show you the promised exercise that I said was going to be a little more aggressive in prying open your hips, so get ready for it. So in that beginner video, I mentioned that there's a really aggressive way you could go about increasing your external rotation. We're going to be looking at that today. Okay, so you're going to be sitting down. You can sit up against the wall and then to start with, and I'm going to show you a couple different variations, different modifications that you can do with this. So we're going to start against the wall. We're going to go into what's called the butterfly stretch, which is with your feet together like this. And some of you are already going to feel like this is really tough. You're not going to have your knees even close to the ground. Your knees are going to be flying up here. If that describes you, congratulations, you're very tight and you need to probably work on this stretch more. You're going to have your, if it's super tight and you're up like that, you can adjust and move your feet out. And then you can use your hands to basically start prying things down. As you're prying down, you can also be contracting these muscles to kind of get an isometric contraction and then relax and let your hand win to push down. So this is one variation that we can work on right now. You can do that for a couple repetitions. Say 5, since everyone wants an exact number, we'll go with 5. And then as you get lower and lower, you can enjoy that big stretch through the groin muscles, right? You can do that on the other side. You can do this both sides at the same time. Whatever feels tolerable and controllable to you is good to go. So right now I'm doing my left side. I'm doing some little contractions and then going down. You could also do something similar to what we did in that previous video where you have your hands underneath and you're pushing down and using your glute muscles to try to help control that downward push, okay? Now, if you want to be really aggressive about it, you can throw some weights on your knees. So I have some 20-pound dumbbells here and I'm just gonna let the weight of those drag my knees down. This can be extremely uncomfortable for people. Expect that. It can be uncomfortable in the inner thigh muscles. It can also be uncomfortable around the hip, around the greater trochanter in particular. For many people, this will feel like, oh my God, I can't do this. I think I'm destroying my hip joint. The reality is you're very unlikely to be destroying the hip joint, but you may be pinching muscles. Some muscles may be really resistant to the idea of allowing external rotation. So you want to be conservative, but also attempt to improve the range. What you're doing here is not something that can actually break the hip joint, but what you are doing is forcing some really tiny, annoying muscles in the hip joint to adapt to this motion. So the goal is to get super close to the floor. I haven't done this stretch in a little bit, but as you can see from here, my knees are really close to the floor, and I do get a bit of a stretch, especially on my left, in my left deep hip rotators right now. Actually, I feel a pretty good amount of resistance to wanting to go any further. Now, I did mention some other variations that you can mess with. One of them would be to scooch away from the wall so you can lean back, and you can also just do one side. Okay, so I could be here and then do both sides. I'm just gonna focus on my left side here and just keep this pinned down, and I can play around with my body position, play around with my pelvis position. I can angle over this way more, so I'm changing up the relationship of my pelvis to the leg and trying to find tight spots that my leg doesn't like. There are some people that I have seen who are really tight when they're in hip flexion and external rotation, but then when they go and they're in hip extension, meaning they're basically lying flat relative to the leg, they're not tight at all. So it's really important to kind of find where you are tight. For me, in hip flexion, it's, at least in this position, it's not really that big a problem, but I notice I'll have a tendency when I'm more into hip extension to find a lot more tightness that restricts my hip external rotation. Okay, so a couple different positions you can play with. You can use weight, you can not use weight, just use your hand. You could even use your other foot to just kind of hold that knee down. Bunch of different things you can do to aggressively start prying on that. The biggest thing that I run into with most people is that they're really afraid they're going to break their hip. And to that I would say, I'm pretty sure it's not possible to break your hip by just applying a little bit of force. There have been many other human beings who have blown up and destroyed their bodies with motorcycle accidents and car accidents and things like that. A little bit of pressure is very unlikely to do that. You might strain muscles though, so just be mindful. Don't try to push too hard, but challenge yourself gradually and gently, and you will generally see some results. If you feel anything pinching and sharp, you definitely want to back off and try to find a level of activation or a level of stretch that feels like it's maybe painful, but at least productive. It has to be a productive feeling. So I hope that helps you out with your journey towards being able to externally rotate better so that you can be the life of every party. And I hope you remember that pain sucks. Life shouldn't. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, share, and comment. And don't forget to subscribe.